conference will now be recorded.
Hey, hello everyone. Good morning, all of you. Welcome to Rushi Technologies. In today's session, I will just walk you through Azure Admin with Azure DevOps course curriculum, like what we will be covering as part of this Azure Admin course and Azure DevOps course, and who can learn this Azure Admin with Azure DevOps syllabus. And again, what are the prerequisites to enroll this course, and what certifications, what Azure certifications you can try after completing this course curriculum. So first of all, let me introduce myself. Most of you guys already know, because some are the other way you guys interacted with me, and most of you guys already attended few other trainings from me. But let's get official introduction. So as you guys already know, I am the founder and a trainer at Rushi Technologies. So this Rushi Technologies is offering the various trainings in DevOps and cloud. So we have a separate courses where we are discussing a DevOps master class or DevOps zero to hero program, DevOps with AWS. And also I am having another training on Azure Admin with Azure DevOps. That is what we are going to start today. And we have a Terraform with multi-cloud. So coming to myself, right? Myself, Balaji Reddy Lachanagari, having overall 16 plus years of experience in IT, and overall more than 8 plus years of experience in teaching, training, right? I have already trained more than 10,000 IT professionals and students in my last 8 years of teaching, and I have specialized in DevOps and cloud. In DevOps, various tools like CI/CD tools like Jenkins, Argo CD, and also Git Actions, and containerization tools like Docker, Kubernetes, and configuration management tools like Ansible. And when it is coming to the cloud, I got an opportunity to work with various cloud platforms, including GCP, Azure, as well as AWS. And my training will be more detailed from very basics to full advanced level. I will be taking the sessions that can be on AWS with the DevOps, or that can be Azure, or that can be Terraform. My trainings will focus on fundamentals to advanced level. My trainings will be more interactive, practical oriented, and project oriented, and real time oriented training I will be going to take. And before I start today's actual content, I would like to tell you, first of all, when this batch will start, right? The batch timings. As you guys already know, this Azure admin with Azure DevOps course class timings will be 8:30 to 10 a.m. IST. The classes will be Monday to Friday, right? Monday to Friday only. Saturday and Sunday we don't have sessions for this batch, and Monday to Friday sessions, weekly 5 sessions, right? weekly 5 sessions. And here the regular classes will start from Monday, that is November 3rd. So November 3rd 2025 we are going to start the regular classes. Today it's like an introduction about the trainer, introduction about the course curriculum. And if you have any specific doubts or specific questions or queries, we can discuss, right, in today's agenda. So again, so as part of this Azure admin, right, what we will be discussing. First of all, what is Azure? First of all, what is Azure? Why do we need to use Azure? So as you guys already know, when we are working for any applications or any projects, right, when you are working for any applications or any projects, we need an infrastructure. We need an infrastructure. So infrastructure, right, can be managed in multiple ways. We have a traditional infrastructure or cloud infrastructure. So first of all, what is infrastructure? Why do we need infrastructure? So when we are working for any applications or projects, we need a infrastructure like servers, storages, networks, databases, load balancers, right? Many other softwares or platforms in order to build and deploy our applications. So we need lot of things, right? So we need an infrastructure. So here there is something called traditional infrastructure, or we used to call it as an on-premise infrastructure. So here infrastructure is nothing but it's like a collection of software and hardware. So infrastructure is nothing but it's like a collection or collection of hardware and softwares, collection of hardware and softwares. That hardware can be a servers, storage devices, networking devices like switches, routes, right? So this hardware can be again, it's like a servers, storage devices, network devices, and switches, routes, repeaters, right? So basically it's a collection of the physical hardware softwares that are required for our applications to be deployed, and the required for the applications to store some kind of a data and again serve that applications and data to the customers. So this infrastructure we used to host in earlier days, we used to call it as a traditional infrastructure, or we used to call it as an on-premise infrastructure. So in this on-premise infrastructure or on-premise data center, we used to call our on-premise infrastructure. So this on-premise infrastructure or on-premise data center is basically where a company itself is owning and managing all the hardware and software, such as the servers, networking equipment, storage equipment, in their own location. We used to call it as an in-house infrastructure or in-house infrastructure. So where the components of the data center is, we should have a hardware like a servers, storage devices, network devices, and also we need to have a softwares configured in that hardware, like operating systems to be configured on that servers, and applications needs to be installed to run on that local hardware. In order to set up this hardware, we need a dedicated space, we need a dedicated building, dedicated area, dedicated building, where we are going to equip with the server racks, and within that server racks, we used to have a servers, that physical servers or a bare metal servers, and all those servers are connected with the storage devices, and again those servers are connected with the network such as internet or intranet again. But here we need to have a dedicated building, we need to have a dedicated space, we need to have a dedicated team who can manage that hardware. We need a dedicated space or a dedicated building where we can house all that infrastructure. And again, we need a high bandwidth also. Let's say we have a data center. Data center is like one big building where within this we have a server racks. In this we have a servers. These servers are hardware is again connected with network switches, network routes, like that. And in these servers again we need to configure the operating system and required softwares, required configurations you have to set up. And again, we need a high internet bandwidth. We need high internet bandwidth because suppose you have deployed some applications in that servers, and your customers are going to access that application from remote locations or at different regions, different location. If there is no very high network bandwidth, again the customers will have the latency problems, slow response. They don't have a good experience with that application. So we need to have a very good internet bandwidth. And again, we need to have a dedicated power supplies and cooling system. As you guys already know, this hardware will produce so much of heat, and if there is no proper cooling systems configured in that data centers, that servers, that hardware may stop functioning, stop working, like that. So we need to have a dedicated cooling system which has to cool down the temperatures in the data centers. And also we need to have a redundant power supply. We need to have a redundant power supply, and you should have a backup of power supplies also, because if any time there is a power outage, again the hardware, the servers running in that data center will be down and customers will have issues. And again, we need to have a physical security also, because physical security also required, because in the data centers we have a servers, in the servers we have so much of our data, our customers data, our data. So we need to have a dedicated physical security also around the data centers. There should not be any theft or a damage it should not happen to the data center. And again, we need to have a disaster recovery. That is very, very important. Let's imagine you have set up the data center. Let's imagine you have set up the data center. In the data center you have a hardware. Let's imagine you are uh, you are working out of your company is working out of Bangalore. Let's imagine you have a data center configured in the Bangalore office, right? You have a data center configured in your Bangalore office, and you have a servers in that, and you have deployed your application. But you should have a disaster recovery also. You should have a disaster recovery. Let's imagine if something goes wrong with that data center itself. If something goes wrong with that data center itself where your applications are running, if there is no backup, or if there is no disaster recovery environment, again your applications will be down. So you need to again have a disaster recovery, data center, disaster recovery data center. It is like another data center in a different location, where again you need to have a hardware in that data center. Again you need to have a servers and applications hosted in this data center. Let's imagine something goes wrong with this production, or basically this live environment, or one of the data center where the customer's traffic is routed. If you have a DR, disaster recovery data centers, and applications hosted in that DR, then you can switch the traffic to the DR. So you need to have this DR environment also you have to set up. But in order to do all these things, lot of expenditure also involved here. Lot of expenditure also involved here. And again, more time consuming. Sometimes your hardware should fail, your hardwares will fail, your server rack may fail, your storage devices may fail, your network switches or routers may fail. You have to replace that failure hardware also. And again, you need a dedicated team, data center team, who can maintain and manage the data center, and who can maintain and manage the data center, and who can configure the hardware in the data centers, who can configure the softwares in the data centers again here. And again, it takes more time, lot of time, guys. Suppose if you worked in any applications where on-premise data center is used, suppose you guys application team, as an application team, you may raise a request. I need a servers, I need a servers for my applications, I need a servers for my databases. You may raise a request with the data center team or on-premise team. Do you think within a day or within a hour, do you think the servers will be configured and given access to the applications team for hosting an application? Suppose if you already worked on any applications where on-premise data center is used, no. So basically it takes a week's time, minimum 7 to 10 days they will take. So first you need to raise a request. To the data center team, and again they should give the approval also. Someone has to approve that request. Once the approval is given, then the data center team will try to find out, is there any servers available in the data centers, is there any server rack, where the servers are available for this team. Suppose if there is no servers or hardware available in that data center, they have to again provisioning the hardware. Provisioning means purchase. They have to raise a request to the vendors who can supply that hardware, right? Then once the hardware request is raised, again they will take maybe a 2 days 3 days time to deliver that hardware to the data center. And again, that hardware has to be connected to the server racks, storage devices, networking. Then once that is done, then we have to configure the OS, we have to install the OS operating systems, then we have to install required softwares and configuration. And again we have to connect those servers to the network, and again we have to configure the firewalls. There are so many, you have to configure the firewalls to allow the traffic. So it takes minimum 7 to 10 days, and again everywhere cost is involved. You need a dedicated data center, you need a dedicated power supply, cooling system, physical security, and the team who can help the managing the data centers, configuring the data center. And again, you need to properly plan your capacity also. Capacity means how much capacity should be required, like how many servers with what capacity is needed, and again how much storage with what capacity is needed. You need to properly plan the capacity in advance. You can't instantly scale in, scale out. You can't instantly scale in, scale out the hardware in a data centers. Again, it will take time. So these are the challenges we will be having with the on-premise data center. These are the challenges having with on-premise data center. Later, there is a concept called cloud computing. Cloud computing came into the picture. So this cloud computing, right? So basically we call it as a cloud computing or a cloud data centers, cloud computing. So this cloud computing is like a on demand. cloud computing is like a on-demand delivery. Cloud computing is like it's like a on-demand delivery, on-demand delivery of IT infrastructure, IT resources like servers, storages, and networks, databases. Not only this hardware components, even softwares also will be delivered. On demand delivery of IT resources like a server, storages, networks, softwares, platforms over internet, over internet, over internet with pay as you as you go model, right? So here, instead of we set up the required data centers, instead of we maintain and manage the hardware components and software components in the data center, someone else someone else will have all the hardware and softwares request to set up the data center. They will be managing their own data centers, but based on our requirement, we can rent. It is like we are renting the infrastructure. Just to give an example, suppose you wanted you wanted to stay. Suppose definitely you or your family, if you wanted to stay, you need a home with all the components. Like a home will have all utilities like water supply, power supply will be there to the home. And again, you will have a bedroom, kitchen, utilities, all those things. Suppose this on-premise data center is like you need to construct your own home from scratch, right? Like a data center, on-premise data center means, as a company, we need to construct everything. We need to have a dedicated space, we need to have a dedicated building. There should be a cooling system, there should be a power supply. We need to purchase the required hardware components, we need to configure the OS in that. And then you can hand over that infrastructure to the applications team so that they can deploy the applications there. But this cloud computing is like someone else already having that setup. Cloud computing means someone already have that setup. Like just to give an example, they will have their own data centers, they will have the hardware in the data center, there will be a physical security, virtual security, servers, storages, networks, internet connectivity, bandwidth, right? Everything already they will be having. And you just you are just renting their resources. Like you guys are taking a house for rent, right? Rental purpose. So if you want 1 bhk house, you can go and choose 1 bhk. Suppose you 1 bhk is not enough for you, you can go and choose 2 bhk. Suppose if you don't need 2 bhk, you can go and choose 3 bhk. There is a flexibility, there is a flexibility for you, right? And again, pay as you go. Suppose if you don't want that home for some reason, let's say during corona time, no one was staying in Bangalore, everyone vacated, there is no problem, right? Similarly, if you need a servers, you can provision the servers. If you need a storages, you can provision the storage. If you need a databases or a softwares, you can provision from them. And if you don't need, you can terminate. So there is a flexibility, there is a flexibility. Not only flexibility, right? You can instantly provision the required servers, you can instantly provision the required storages, load balancers, databases based on the demand. And again, users can access the computing resources or a storage resources or any other platforms or a softwares also whenever they need, right? And again, this can be accessed from anywhere. Suppose even though you are working out of Bangalore, you are working out of maybe Mysore, wherever, that doesn't matter. You can access these services or resources from anywhere. Right? The services are delivered over the internet and allowing access from anywhere. And again, pay as you go model. Pay as you go model. So pay for whatever resources you are using from them. And again, scalability, availability, fault tolerance, elasticity, all these features are going to be provided. So we'll discuss about in a detailed way what is high availability, what is fault tolerance, what is scalability, right? So resources can be scaled up, scaled down to meet the changing demands, right? You can instantly scale, manually also you can scale, or you can automatically also scale in, scale out the resources like servers, storages, whatever it could be. And again, no physical hardware management, no data center management, right? we can we can free from that data center maintenance so that we can focus on the products, we can focus on the applications. So as a company, if we are using if we are using a cloud infrastructure or a cloud computing, we no need to worry about hardware management, data center management. We no need to buy and we no need to own and maintain our own hardware. So we no need to focus on that hardware management, data center management, so that we are free from that management, so that we can focus on the actual applications or products that we can develop. And again, you no need to invest a lot of money, capital expenditure, only operational expenditure, only for whatever services we are trying to use, right? We can use and we can pay. And the cloud computing providers, these cloud computing providers are like a companies or organizations who are providing these services. There is something called CSP, cloud service providers. There is something called CSP, cloud service providers. So these cloud service providers are nothing but cloud service providers are nothing but the organizations or companies who are providing these cloud computing services like infrastructure services, platform services, software services, database services, like that. These cloud service providers are the actual companies or an organizations who are providing these IT resources like a servers, storages, networks, databases, softwares, and many more over internet based on the demand. We call them as a cloud service providers. So there are so many cloud service providers. Like example, AWS, Azure, Azure, or we call it as a Microsoft Azure, Azure, or we call it as a Microsoft Azure, or GCP, Google Cloud Platform, IBM Cloud, Oracle Cloud, Salesforce Cloud. Like that, there are so many. IBM Cloud is there, Oracle Cloud is there, Alibaba Cloud is there. Like there are so many. These cloud service providers are providing the services to their customers. What type of services? Examples. Examples. Cloud. Examples of cloud services. Examples of cloud services. Like here, computing services, computing power. Computing power means the servers and processing. Processing means CPU. Servers and processing power, right? Computing power like a server's storage. We need a storage to store the data. In order to store the data, we need a storage to store files and data, right? Again, we have a different types of storages like block storage, file storage, object storage, different types of storages. Again, we will be discussing about all these computing concepts in a detailed way, storage concepts also in a detailed way, in which use case we can use what type of storage, right? We will be discussing all these things, like what is block storage, what is object storage, what is file storage, when we can use which storage, and again how to secure these storages that we are storing, and mean to say how to secure the data that is being stored in the storages. There is a concept called encryption in rest, encryption in transit, security, store, network security, compute security, storage security. We will be discussing about all those concepts, but I am trying to explain what type of services these cloud service providers are giving: computing services, storage services, networking. What is networking? Why do we need network? What is subnets? What is firewalls? We will be discussing about this networking resources, like we can create a network, subnets, routes, gateways, internet gateway, private gateways, right? All these things we'll be discussing. And again, analytics and intelligence. Nowadays the softwares also analytics and artificial intelligence and machine learning, analytics and intelligence tools. They're providing a softwares or a tools also. These cloud service providers, is giving the tools for data analysis and AI. Tools means they are providing some kind of a softwares also. They are providing as services for data analysis and artificial intelligence, data analysis and AI. Not only this, suppose you need softwares also they are providing, databases also they are providing, softwares as a services, and they are providing databases, load balancers, Kubernetes clusters, containerization platforms. There are so many they are providing. So softwares, applications and softwares also can be delivered over internet, and the databases also we can create fully managed databases like this. These are like a various types of services they are providing, and you can instantly provision whatever services you need from these cloud service providers, and you can deploy and serve the your applications to your own customers also with this cloud service provider. There are a lot of advantages with this cloud. So advantages, right? We have a lot of advantages also. Advantages like a cost efficiency, right? It will reduce the need for upfront capital expenditure. So you no need to invest a lot of money upfront for purchasing the hardware, managing the data center. You no need to worry, right? That will be taken care by the cloud service provider. Here shared responsibility model is there. So they will be providing some services to us, and as a service provider they are providing some services. As a service user we need to manage something. So we will discuss about all these things in regular sessions, like cloud service models, what is shared responsibility, right? What is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. We will be discussing all those things later, right? But only pay for whatever services we are using. So cost efficiency and scalability. These cloud services can be quickly scaled up, scaled down. That can be computing capacity or a storage capacity. Instantly, you can scale up, scale down. And again, accessibility or a mobility. We can access the data. And applications deployed in that cloud service providers. We can access from any location with internet connections, right? And again, reliability, disaster recovery. These cloud service providers are offering high availability and backup and recovery mechanisms also. So these cloud service providers are providing their services across the globe. There is a concept called regions, there is a concept called availability zones, right? Across the globe they are providing the services using regions and availability zones concept. Suppose you can configure an applications in multiple regions also. If one of the region is not working as expected, you can serve your customers from another region. The best example I can give of, if you guys remember, last week there is a issue in AWS data centers, AWS cloud, US East. There was a some issue in AWS US East region with AWS DynamoDB service. So with AWS DynamoDB service, there was an issue. Actually, that AWS DynamoDB service issue arisen because of DNS resolution failures in that US region. If you imagine because of that, so many customers also impacted, but also at the same time, they have a backup and recovery plans also. And this AWS, not only AWS, you take Azure, AWS or Azure, they have their services served from different location. So even though there was an impact in one of the region or a data center, right? So the disaster recovery plan, backup plan was also implemented. Everyone will implement the DR, disaster recovery or a backup plans. So DR is like a duplicate of production where we will be having the same applications deployed that are in standby mode. Standby mode. Suppose something went wrong with the live environment or a production environment or a data center in that the data center where we are serving the traffic, you can switch the traffic to the DR. So if you see, so many customers are using cloud, but even though there is a problem in the data centers also, there is no impact. Continuity, business continuity will be there. Reliability, disaster recovery, right? So this cloud providers provides high availability and recovery mechanisms also, which can be more reliable than on-premise solution. And again, these cloud providers will also handle updates, OS updates, software updates, and ensure you are always have the latest features and security patches also. Security patches also without manual intervention. There are updates also going on in the background. But here we have some drawbacks also. We have a drawbacks also. Drawbacks is like a dependencies. A stable internet connection. A stable internet connections are required to access cloud services. And also vendor lock-in. Vendor lock-in means suppose you are you are using one cloud service provider, you are using only services from them, you have to stick to them. Sometimes it can be difficult, and costly also if you have to switch to some other vendors. And security, but again, security don't we no need to worry. These cloud service providers, will invest heavily in the security also. Even though the applications are hosted in someone else managed data center, even though the data is stored in some other third party people servers, but you may have a concerns, about privacy and security also. But again, these cloud service providers are investing heavily in the security. That can be physical security, software security, network security, data security. There are so many security services and security layers implemented by these cloud service providers. But it is our responsibility, to again implement the proper security in every layer. Network layer security, data security, service security, application security, all these things we need to properly implement also. And here we have so many cloud service providers. And again, we have a types of cloud types of clouds. We have public cloud, we have public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, like this. And again, these cloud service providers will provide the services in some model, cloud service models. Like we have infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, functions as a service, right? Functions as a service, like that. They're providing different services. We will be discussing more on that. So now, this is the fundamentals or basics of what is infrastructure, why do we need infrastructure, again what is on-premise infrastructure, what is cloud infrastructure, like what are the advantages of cloud infrastructure. But as part of the regular curriculum, regular sessions, we will be discussing all these things in a detailed way. Now let me first walk you through what we are going to cover as part of this Azure admin with Azure DevOps course curriculum, right? And again, why you guys need to join with Rushi Technologies, and why Rushi Technologies, why Balaji, why not someone, right? So as you guys already know, what makes my training more unique than others. So this Azure admin with the Azure DevOps course curriculum, I will be discussing more than 100 plus hours of live training, in depth, interactive live sessions covering every aspect of the curriculum. Whatever I am going to committed, whatever I have committed in this syllabus, each and every topic, interactive, live, and in depth of the curriculum I will cover. And again, one more thing here, I am giving 1 year access to the recordings. It is not like just 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months like that. So I am going to give 1 year access to the recordings. Never miss a class. I don't encourage you to miss the class, but by maybe you have some office work, you have some office meeting, some personal emergency. If you miss a class, you can review the concepts and lectures at your own pace, right? So I will be giving access to the recordings for 1 year. And again, first I will be explaining all these tools, all these concepts technically, theoretically, and again I will show you how you can apply these skills, how you can use all these services or tools or technologies that you have learned in Azure, how you can apply your skills to the projects, a real world projects, and you will gain practical and hands-on experience also. And again, troubleshooting support, you will receive a support from me as a trainer. I will be available for you guys for debugging and troubleshooting when you are practicing something, when you are practicing something, if you are facing some issues or errors, right? I am available for you. There will be a dedicated group, there will be a dedicated group created for this batch, right? This Azure admin with Azure DevOps batch, and whoever is enrolled, whoever is going to enroll for this course, once the fee is paid and cleared, I will be adding you to that group, and in that group, you can post your questions or queries, and I will be also sharing the meeting links, materials, and I will be giving assignments also in that group, and you can post your questions, queries, and I will get clarified. Not only this, now I am bringing one more feature in this Rushi Technologies week, or every week, or maybe 2 weeks once. Every week or maybe 2 weeks once, we will be having a dedicated Q&A session. This is the new feature that I have introduced here in Rushi Technologies. Weekend, either Saturday or Sunday, every week or maybe 2 weeks once, only Q&A session, question and answers session. It is not a regular session. What you guys can do, that week, whatever concepts I have explained, whatever you guys practiced on that week, if you have any specific questions or queries you wanted to ask with me, in a regular session also you can ask. In a regular session also you can ask. A regular session means every day, at the end of the session, at the end of the session also you can ask. Maybe you can attend that Q&A session, and you can get, you can ask your questions or queries or any guidance. You need any career guidance, you need any other doubts, clarifications, you can ask that in a weekly Q&A sessions also. Again, here I will be helping you with the resume preparation and interview preparation also in this Azure part. And as you guys already know, I am into this trainings from last 8 years. I have so many students in various levels, right? From fresher to the till manager and architect also, I have so many students across so many companies. Most of the time, if they have any openings in their organizations, they will be posting their updates to me. I used to update my students, right? If that position is relevant to you, so you will get some kind of a job referrals also with the Rushi Technologies and from my side, right? And again, this course curriculum, this course curriculum is designed into two parts. First part, Azure administrative part. So first, we will be focusing on Azure platform, Azure architecture, and Azure services like compute services, storage services, networking services, monitoring services, right? Azure architecture, what is Azure resource group, subscriptions, right? Azure VMs, scale sets, availability sets, fault domains, update domains, regions, availability zones, that Azure architecture and Azure components, Azure resource manager, Azure ARM templates also will be discussing, and Azure compute services, storage services, network services, monitoring services, right? Azure AD security, right? Azure load balancers, Azure containerized services. We will be focusing on all those things, which is whatever is required to go for a Azure Admin 104 certification exam. So as I already said, if you wanted to go for a certification with this Azure Admin with Azure DevOps, you can go for Azure Admin 104 certification and also Azure DevOps 400. Azure DevOps 400 certification program. But it is not mandatory. But if you are planning to go for a certification, you can pay the fee to Microsoft Azure, and you can crack this Azure 104 certification and 400 certification also, based on your company needs, based on your personal needs also. Again, in part 2, we are going to learn about Azure DevOps and what is the traditional DevOps, what is traditional DevOps, and how different this DevOps is from Azure DevOps. Right? Here we are going to discuss about Azure DevOps proprietary services. Here we have something called Azure boards for project management. Right? What is Azure board? How to create a user stories? How to create a epics in Azure boards? Right? How to create a project management board in Azure? Right? How to create user stories, epics. We will be discussing on that Azure boards, and again we will be discussing about Azure repos. Azure repos where we can maintain the application code in the Azure repos, the source code in the Azure repos. And again, we will be discussing about Azure CI service, Azure CI pipeline, and Azure CI pipeline, Azure CD pipeline services, and also we'll be focusing about how to implement a CI/CD pipeline using Azure DevOps services, and how we can build and deploy applications in Azure VMs or Azure AKS clusters. Also, we will be discussing the detailed syllabus. I will share via WhatsApp or email. But at high level, let me tell you here what I am going to cover. Right. So as I already said, here we will be covering Azure admin in first part, Azure admin part. We will be discussing about what is cloud service models, cloud deployment models, high availability, fault tolerance, scalability, elasticity. Then Azure architecture like regions, right? Availability zones, resource groups, subscriptions, right? All those things. And again, we will be discussing about compute services like Azure virtual machines, scale sets, app services, right? We will be discussing about app services, and we will be discussing about functions, Azure functions, and again storage, different types of storages like blob storage, file storage, right? Storage accounts, all these things, networking components like Azure networks, Azure VNets, subnets, VNet peering, Azure firewalls and DNS, Azure load balancers and traffic manager, like that. And again, Azure databases, managed databases, right? And we will be learning about how to create a databases in Azure, managed databases, Azure SQL database, Cosmos DB, how, and again, containerization related services, AKS, ACR, we will be discussing first. Then monitoring related, right? Azure Monitor, log analytics, alerts, right? Application insights, we will be discussing. And again, identity, Azure Entra ID, or formerly known as Azure AD, Active Directory, how to create users groups, how to create Azure policies, how to create a resource logs, right? This comes under Azure security and governance. Azure security and governance, right? We need to secure the services in Azure. So how we can create required permissions to the users groups, right? Zero trust concepts, right? All these things. Again, next, as part of part 2, Azure DevOps, we will be discussing about what is DevOps, principles and cultures and benefits of DevOps, right? What is continuous integration, what is continuous delivery. Then we will be starting discussing about Azure DevOps services. Azure DevOps services, understand this is very, very important. We will be focusing on Azure DevOps services like Azure CI service, Azure CD service, Azure artifacts, Azure repos, Azure service connections, right? We will be discussing about how to create a repositories and Azure repos, how to create a branches in Azure repos, and how to integrate this Azure repos with Azure CI/CD, and how we can use this Azure services to deploy into the VMs or Kubernetes like that. All these things, right? So here we will be discussing about Azure boards, Azure pipeline, Azure CI agents, and Azure CD pipelines, right? Again, we will be discussing about this, and how to create and deploy applications using Azure DevOps into a virtual machines. If required, how to deploy into Kubernetes like AKS also we'll be discussing. But here we will be focusing on Azure DevOps services. Don't compare this course or a curriculum with the DevOps with the AWS master program. So here we will be not in detail we are not going to discuss about Linux and shell scripting. You should have some basic idea already about Linux and shell scripting. Also basic idea should be there. Here we are not going to discuss about Linux commands, all those things. This is a little different from the DevOps master program. So DevOps is a common, whether you are using AWS, whether you are using Azure, whether you are using GCP, whether you are using on-prem, the concepts of DevOps remain same, right? Here I will be focusing on Azure DevOps proprietary services. You should have already some knowledge about OS, operating systems, right? Virtualization, containerization, right? You should also have some knowledge about build tools, right? You should also have a knowledge about build tools like Maven, npm. Okay, so here we will be not discussing about detailed containerization like Docker, what is Docker, how to do build and deploy. We will be doing build and deployments in Docker, and we will be doing build and deployments in Kubernetes. But this is not like a DevOps master program where I will be explaining Docker and Kubernetes for 2 months. So this is basically Azure admin services and Azure DevOps services. You should have some knowledge on Docker, Kubernetes. Here I will be explaining how to build and deploy applications to the Kubernetes. But here we are not going to discuss like what is what like step by step like that. So we will be covering but high level. But you need to have a knowledge already on OS. You should have already some knowledge on build tools. You should also have some knowledge on Docker's, Kubernetes like that. But here we will be using a Azure Kubernetes service, and we will be deploying applications to the Kubernetes. But we are not going to focus on in detail what is pod, what is deployment, what is service, what is config map, what is secrets, what is values. That much detail we will be not covering here, guys. Keep in mind, right? So then, who can join this course? Who can enroll for this course? The people who already have knowledge on applications and DevOps. Maybe even though you are a fresher, you can enroll for this course, but you should have already have some knowledge on what is DevOps and cloud like that. And here you should have some knowledge on already OS, operating systems like Linux commands, a little bit knowledge on Linux commands, and already some knowledge about build tools if required, and again some knowledge on containerizations and container orchestration tools, right? If you are already working in IT, whether you are a developer, whether you are a DevOps guy, whether you are a administrator, cloud administrator, right? Or you are a network administrator or you are a storage administrator also, you can enroll for this course, so that you will get an idea about cloud computing, cloud networking, cloud storages, all those things. So here the detailed syllabus I have already explained, I have already given what I am going to cover. So here we will be again implementing, we will be implementing a CI/CD pipelines using Azure DevOps services. We will see how to build and deploy applications, virtualized deployments, and how we can deploy these applications as a containers in Azure VMs or Azure AKS cluster also. We will be doing manually also, we will be doing, and via pipelines. Via pipelines also we will implement, right? So we will be discussing basics, container basics, how to build and deploying applications into the Docker, Kubernetes, industry standards, right? But you should know first of all what is Docker, what is Kubernetes. We will be discussing basics like what is Docker, how to create image, how to pull image, how to create container like commands, but not like in detailed way. Maybe most of you guys already my students, you might have the expectation like what I have done in DevOps, Docker, Kubernetes, that much extent we are not going to cover. This is primarily for Azure Admin and Azure CA, right? So here we will be discussing about how to build and deploy into ACR, how to push images to the ACR, how to deploy to the Kubernetes again via pipelines again, and security scanning, vulnerability assessment. We will be doing all these things, role-based access control, list privileges, all these things we will be discussing here, guys. The total duration for this course will be approximately 3.5 months. It may go beyond this 3.5 months also, as you guys already know how my trainings will be. 3.5 months starting from Monday, November 3rd. November 3rd, right? So here we will be discussing about Azure Portal, Azure CLI, Azure CLI. So using Azure CLI also you can create and manage the resources, and we will discuss about Azure ARM templates, how to create resources using Azure ARM templates. And there is something called PowerShell. So using PowerShell, how we can integrate, how we can interact with Azure also using PowerShell. We will be discussing about basics of PowerShell also, how we can interact with Azure using PowerShell commands, like that we will be discussing. Here no Terraform, guys. Terraform is separate curriculum. So this is primarily Azure Admin with Azure DevOps. Okay, so this is the detailed syllabus that I have already shared. If you guys have any specific questions or any specific queries, you can feel free to ask. Give me a minute. I will give the permissions to unmute yourself. If you have any doubts, any questions, any queries, you can ask me. Just a minute. Yeah, you guys can now unmute and ask if you have any questions. So do you have projects as per the industry standards? Home Prakash is asking. So no one in the world, trust me, if someone is saying we are going to show real projects or real-time projects, no one in the world can show their actual projects. That is security violation, right? They will be terminated immediately. Don't trust that words, that marketing words. We are going to show real projects, right? That is just marketing stunts, the training centers. Even if I say real projects I will show, that is, don't trust anyone. So I will be taking some applications or a sample applications. I will be showing the real time scenarios or real time use cases, how we are going to do the build and deployments, how we can use all these services, how we can secure these services, and how we can implement CI/CD, how we can implement security, how you can provision server storages, networks, load balancers, traffic management, DNS. I will be showing by taking sample application sample applications with real-time use cases and scenarios I will be assisted with.
Bro, you said like Azure admin, right? So will it come like Azure AVD as well in the same
Sorry?
syllabus? Azure AVD, will it come under?
No, no. Azure admin is not going to be cover Azure AVD, right? Azure admin, if you see the Azure admin course certificate, I mean, it's a certification. They are
Mhm.
primarily focusing on Azure 104 certification, primarily focusing on networks, storage,
Okay. Mhm.
compute, identity, security, governance, right? So these are the 104 certification expectation, right? So we will be detailedly discussing about all these Azure admin related components. We are not discussing about other. Azure has not only Azure and AWS also. There are so many services and so many papers, right? So here
Okay.
Azure data analyst, data engineer is different. Azure AI and machine learning papers are different. Curriculum is different. This is primarily on administration, where most of the applications needs this network storage, compute, identity, security, governance, right? We will be focusing on this.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone has any other questions or queries? You can unmute and ask if you have.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Very good morning.
Okay, so my concern is I'm an infra guy. Okay,
Uh-huh.
and I wanted to upgrade my skill like the from the technology like the on premises to cloud. Okay, so and the current CTC it's like 16 LPA. Okay, with the overall the 13-year experience. After this course, can I jump within a 25 LPA?
Definitely, you can switch to this right after this course curriculum. Again, you can move to cloud and you can start using cloud services, and you can support the application team to create and manage the cloud infrastructure. But as you guys already know, nowadays the expectation is more, right? Because of the lot of I mean to say competition in the market. There are so many layoffs going on. There are so many like huge people are on the bench like that. So if you are only cloud may open little opportunities, but at the same time if you master cloud and DevOps together, right, there are like the opportunities will be more. And right, the people who has already 13 to 14 years of experience, how much expectation will be there, right? So this will give overview about DevOps and overview about cloud. But if you wanted to master in DevOps, right, you should learn some other tools in a detailed way, like Docker, Kubernetes especially.
Okay. And if you can change the timing slot like the evening, so it will be great. So
No, actually, I have
morning,
some other schedules also because of that. Morning
because in the
7:30.
morning we have office time, so that's why.
Sorry for that. Actually, I have only this slot available because other slots I am completely occupied.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Sandeep. Uh, yeah,
Yes.
actually, I am working in application support.
Mhm.
So I have knowledge on Unix, Oracle, self-scripting, and all. But
Mhm.
little I'm just started working in Kubernetes, some application level commands and all. So should
Mhm.
I go for this course or should I go for
No,
any
Sandeep.
other course like?
Sandeep, for you, since you are already in application support, right? I suggest DevOps with that AWS Master Program, that where you will get a complete idea in detail about Docker, Kubernetes, and also there we will be helping with AWS Cloud. So I recommend
Mhm.
you for that. Okay.
Which
But
one it will be?
that I will be starting from November 29th. I can update you on that.
Okay. So how will get updated on that? You will be going to update me, or I will call you
Just
in that
message
WhatsApp
me.
number.
Just message
Okay,
me.
that is the number, right, where you have shared the link and all.
Yes, correct.
Okay. I will get back to you by November 15 or 17. November 29, you are going to start, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. And if you are already into DevOps and cloud, if you learn this my Azure also, you will have a lot of opportunities because nowadays you guys know, right? Companies are expecting multi-cloud knowledge. So if you are, even though you are already working on cloud and DevOps also, learning other cloud also open lot of opportunities for you because some companies will expect multi-cloud knowledge. So there are doors open for you if there is a requirement for on Azure cloud and Azure DevOps services also. Okay, guys.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, sir. Good morning. Currently, I'm working as a Linux administrator.
Okay.
So I'm confusing which one is best to learn as a Azure or AWS DevOps.
Uh,
Yeah.
no, as I already said, don't confuse it with Azure DevOps, AWS DevOps. DevOps and
Okay.
cloud is completely different. Okay. So first, I recommend you to learn DevOps. In order to learn proper DevOps from very big basics to full advanced level, go for DevOps master program, right? So this
Okay.
AWS or Azure is basically cloud service providers. The way AWS is giving the services like a server storages, networks, databases, load balancers, and many other tools, right? Similarly, Azure also giving. Similarly, GCP also giving. This DevOps can be implemented in using AWS services, or this DevOps can be implemented using Azure services. Basically, servers, storages, networks you can use from AWS or Azure, or maybe that can be on-prem also. But what is AWS DevOps or Azure DevOps? Particularly, people say instead of we create and manage the DevOps tools again. Suppose if you already know, you need a CI/CD servers like Jenkins, right? You need some kind of a, servers to maintain the packages like Nexus. You need something like SonarQube. So instead of you create these servers and instead of you set up these CI/CD tools, these cloud platforms are providing that DevOps softwares also as a services. I can say DevOps softwares also as a services. That is where this Azure CI service is there, Azure CD service is there, Azure artifacts are there, Azure repos are there. So this is Azure DevOps actually. So if you are completely new to DevOps world itself, I recommend that the DevOps master program. But if you have some basic knowledge about what is CI, what is CD, what is source code management, what is builder tools, what is application softwares, what is like containers, what is a container deployment, a virtual deployment. If you have that knowledge, I will recommend this. Otherwise, I will recommend that DevOps master program.
Okay. When it will start going to start the DevOps?
The November 29th, as I said.
Normal. Okay. Thanks. Can you please confirm that what's the amount will be charged for that? Yeah.
So for this DevOps with the AWS curriculum, the course fee will be 25K, and for this it
Okay.
will be 22K. So for this Azure,
Duration for that? Same 3.5 months
no,
for DevOps.
this is DevOps. So duration for this DevOps with AWS course, it will take 5.5 months.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks. I will get back to you on 20th November.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. If you need any other details or if you have any other queries, so this is my personal number, and I have one more number as of now. I am only managing. So you can reach out to either of these two numbers.
Yeah, okay, sure. Thanks.
you can reach out to me on these numbers for any other details.
Thanks.
Okay, guys. If you have any still questions or queries which you wanted to ask, you can reach out to me on this number. I will assist you. So from here, I will be continue on Monday. Monday morning 8:30, I will start the session. So before Monday, try to pay the fee and enroll so that I will add you to particular groups where you will get all the details. Okay. And if you would like to attend a few more sessions, like 1 or 2 sessions before you wanted to decide also, let me know. I can share the meeting links. Okay. Thank you. That's it for today. Have a great weekend. See you on Monday, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.